How do we release trauma stored in our bodies? More and more discoveries are being made about the kinds of neural links made in the brain and how they affect our perception, our minds, and our bodies. The brain appears to be responsible for our entire system, or is that the case? On one level, any attempt to affect physical change has to be examined and accepted by the brain. There's something like 600,000 signals that travel from the brain into the body every second. These signals are then routed back to the brain with information. This information is then interpreted and sent back out. Whenever we feel, hear, see, or even think, the brain uses our past experiences in order to process and categorize the sensations and create and delegate an appropriate response. What this tells us about our brains and our bodies is that there is something called cell memory, which is a valuable insight into trauma. All of the information of all our experiences is still stored in our body, in our brains most definitely, but also in our cells, memory. And any trauma we have experienced could still be resonating in our body, whether it was physical trauma, like an accident, emotional trauma, like a breakup, or mental trauma, like the psychological impact of childhood abuse. So the question becomes, how do we heal our bodies and our minds? How do we release trauma stored in our bodies? How do we get over trauma without just covering up our trauma or putting a band-aid on it? How can we be free from trauma? The key is learning to trust and work with our bodies. But how do we do that? Our bodies communicate and speak to us in many ways, and if we lose our connection to it, it will try to communicate with us more aggressively with pain, with anxiety, anguish, or other undesirable symptoms if they persist, regardless of whether the origin of our distress is mental, physical, or spiritual. Through a unique process of inquiry, the practitioner can cut to the chase and bring to body consciousness the core healing issues while using the body as a vehicle both of interpretation and healing. And all this through the fascia.